Hey, what's happening, everybody? Pragmatic Addict here. So, I just got back from finally seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. So, there's something I want to state that I feel is very important for me to state, and that is that, like I stated in my last review, The Fall of the House of Usher, I did not read the novel that this film is based off of. I actually have a few friends, like out of my circle, 3 actually, that have all read the novel and have all said to me, if I don't read it, they're basically coming after me. But there was a lot of layers to this film that I didn't actually know about. Like, for example, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, I wasn't even so sure if he was a villain. I knew that De Niro's character was, and that he, portrays Leonardo DiCaprio's uncle in the movie, and that Leonardo DiCaprio's character is actually extremely fearful of this man. He's also extremely dangerous. That much I did know. All I knew about this film, or what I thought I knew, was all that I had gathered from the trailers, which was that there is a string of murders happening among the Osage Nation, and DiCaprio and De Niro's characters' family are the ones that are responsible. And to make matters even worse, Lily Gladstone's character, Molly, her character is actually connected to the family that is being murdered. And she also plays DiCaprio's character's partner in this movie. So just from that alone, I was like, with it being based on a true story, directed by Martin Scorsese, I was kind of terrified from what I had heard about the novel, which I heard was very horrifying. I can't wait to read it. But I was terrified to go into this movie, in a sense, as much as I was excited to see it. And another thing I want to note really quickly before I get into the review, lastly, is that before the movie started, there's actually a little speech from Martin Scorsese where he had actually stated that this film was shot in Oklahoma, where the film's real events took place, and he had the Osage community standing beside him, like, while he was filming the movie. So that right there just adds so much depth and so much weight to this film.
You got to make sure everything we do is as authentic, as accurate, or at least as reasonably accurate from what can be remembered as possible.
So the official plot of this movie reads, at the turn of the 20th century, oil brought a fortune to the Osage Nation, who became some of the richest people in the world overnight. The wealth of these Native Americans immediately attracted white interlopers who manipulated, extorted, and stole as much Osage money as they could before resorting to murder. And that right there paints a very good picture of this movie. This movie is all about greed, manipulation, betrayal, guilt, and just the fall of human beings. And just how disturbing, dehumanizing, sickening one family will go to take this from this nation. But with all that being said, guys, let's talk about my thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon. So immediately, there were things, obviously, with a picture like this, that there were so many things that I wanted to note that I liked. Everything from the way that this time and tone is captured, this 1920s setting, Oklahoma with the white people and the Osage Nation. Also just the background and leeway that we get, seeing the two different sides, seeing how the whites could be struggling financially. We see them struggling with work, struggling with money. We see the Osage Nation, how they're, kind of rising with, the money that they're getting from the oil. There was a lot of things that I really liked from the get-go, but the big standout, which is not, like a hot take or anything, was DiCaprio. The second he got on screen, I wanted to know about his character. I wanted to know what his arc was going to be, even his performance and everything. Just hearing him speak his first line, I was like, that's what I'm ready for the next 3.5 hours. And initially, I kind of really liked his character. Just the second that you see him, you see this layer of shelter, of this, fear. And the second that he reunites with his family, most notably Robert De Niro's character, that's another thing, is that the characters in this film, each lead anyway, Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, they all have so much to work with that is all equally so much to tackle. Like, I feel pretty safe in saying that most of this film, surprisingly, is just seeing this horrific story coming out of each of these human beings and seeing all that they're going with. This is a very psychological movie, weirdly enough. It's a lot of you just getting a deeper look, just kind of being able to witness all these different lives of these people. But going back to De Niro's character, the second that he came on screen, obviously with me like not only knowing that he was like gonna be the villain before seeing this film, but even if like I didn't know that, just seeing his character for the first time, you just see something very off about him. He just depicts a villain in the best way. And I was actually watching someone's review, and it was like they were saying something that he was like, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I definitely see where they were going with that. Because he is a character that you just can, like, one thing that I liked about this movie, again, is how well it paints humanity. Again, this is a movie about lying, betrayal, guilt, greed. It's about going and doing whatever you can to get something that you want. And especially seeing early on, like, getting the first kind of introduction to Robert De Niro's character, how he interacts with his family, how he kind of manipulates them. You can just see the act. You can just see it behind his eyes that this guy is bad fucking news. He is a villain. Nobody acts like this. Nobody is this calm. No one says these things and holds their, demeanor during these moments. It's just that analyzation in a human way. And that was something that I loved right off the bat, is that during this moment, you already can feel yourself like maybe in Leonardo DiCaprio's character's shoes right here, talking with his uncle. And that's what I loved, is that it depicts so well, like, whatever person you're watching, the type of person that they really are, or lack thereof. But right off the bat, again, it just paints such a realistic and interesting picture of life back then. I was actually surprised at how slow that this movie, and to some degree, was, because it really is showing you, again, just backgrounds and stories and character arcs. It can be a little bit of like not what you're expecting. It can come off a little bit slow, but even though it is a 3.5-hour runtime, it never really felt like the movie was dragging. The movie still just kind of flew by, because this really is what we're watching. We're watching these people's lives. We're watching what they're going through. We're watching how they're handling it and how they're dealing with it. And we're just dreading what's coming next. Like, for example, Lily Gladstone's character and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, that like love story, at least in the beginning, it's so hard to watch because you go into this film more or less knowing what's coming. And in a sense, it feels like that love story is gonna be like the glue that's gonna hold this film together. Like, that's gonna be the final judgment. That's what's gonna determine everything. And that was really hard to watch because you see, actually pretty early on, Ernest's, like, his real life. You see what this secret life that he's living. And you can see him slowly falling in love with this woman. And going back to the humanity of, like, the story and everything, Lily Gladstone especially, she has so much weight to her character because she is just experiencing the most traumatic and brutal things imaginable to a person, where it actually, you could just feel it leaving the audience's, like, shaking. And De Niro delivered exactly the same, but just as that villain. It was that thing where it was like, whenever Lily Gladstone was on screen, you were devastated. Whenever Robert De Niro was on screen, you were either horrified or fuming. Whenever DiCaprio was on screen, you were just dreading what the fuck was gonna come next. They bring absolutely everything possible that they can to these characters. And I would actually honestly say that this is maybe one of the most important films I've seen. Again, I would say that, if anything, my issues with the film is that majority of the film feels pretty slow. And again, I know that can sound a little bit like scary considering that this is a 3.5-hour runtime, but again, the film never felt like it was dragging because it was that thing where it feels slow, because when you watch the trailers, you think that this is just going to be your jam-packed, big blockbuster, big screen, like, summer movie. But watching the movie, it really is just a tragic story that you need to see, you need to understand, you need to know. And I would actually go as far as to say that this movie is more of just an experience than anything. This isn't really something I see myself rewatching. I see myself getting the Blu-ray for, and not even like so much reacting to while I'm watching the movie, but more so just witnessing it. But in saying this, I do want to say that getting to like the halfway point is where it really does kind of become that murder mystery epic crime film that I think we're kind of hoping and expecting, especially based off of the trailers and everything, being that big blockbuster, big screen movie that a lot of people might be anticipating it as. But I also wouldn't say it's that case where it just starts off slow, because by the end, it really picks up in the sense where when you look back at the film, it really is just, again, a story that needs to be told, and by the end, it does go out with a bang because it kind of has to. It's just inevitable. It's natural. And during these moments, we're really seeing what the buzz is about Leonardo DiCaprio's performance. Again, like I said earlier, each character has so much to do in this film. Leonardo DiCaprio, like, for his performance, he has a lot to do as well, because he is part of this family that is doing these murders. He is also trying to cover up these murders for the love of his life. And by the end of it, yeah, everyone is just kind of slowly unraveling until they completely collapse. Leonardo DiCaprio, I loved the feelings he has to work with. I love the tones that he has to like build up to and kind of like live up to those expectations, and how he has to deliver that to the audience, again, in a very psychological and analyzed way. And again, going back to Lily Gladstone, just throughout the movie, you really are just seeing a very realistic toll that this is taking on her, the effect that this is having on her as a human being, this like the weight that this could possibly put on you, the trauma, the grief. This is not only her family, but she has a baby on the way. She's hiring detectives and police out of her own money that are also being murdered. And again, that's just kind of what I feel this film has to really offer, is just how much humanity this film brings. And one of the last things I want to mention, weirdly enough, is actually Jesse Plemons in this film. So I want to be honest, getting to like maybe the last act of the film, I actually totally forgot that he or Brendan Fraser were going to be in this film, because this really is just all about the three leads and how much they bring to this motion picture, that when I got like, I don't know, 2 hours into the movie or something, I was like, hey, isn't Jesse Plemons in this movie? Like, I totally forgot about him, but once he comes into the picture, I was surprised, because it was at that point where when he did come to the picture, I was like, okay, he is obviously just this side character. They're bringing him toward the end of the film so he can just kind of wrap up the story. No, I was surprised that when they brought him in, how much he was going to have to work with. It's official. If you're in a Martin Scorsese film, you're going to fucking work. Like, I would actually go as far as to say that once his character came in, I kind of forgot about the other three, because he more or less kind of shines in the last act. He also just brings this new flavor into the film that, again, made the last act feel refreshing, made it feel like a really notable and like memorable climax compared to just the three leads that we were used to, and just the brutality of the film that we've, you know, gotten immune to over the past couple hours, or are still trying to get immune to. I'd actually maybe say that he was one of my favorite characters and actually stood out as much as the rest of the cast did. But yeah, at the end of it, guys, this is one of the most important films I think I've seen. I do think that majority of this film is going to be totally different than what the general audience is going to be expecting, but by that last half of the film, it not only delivers exactly for the like general public and everything, but really was just an unexpected and memorable final portion of the film that is that big blockbuster like climax that you're going to be expecting, and it really just made the film tie up in a really astounding way. And I'm going to give Killers of the Flower Moon a positive review. So those are my thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon. I cannot wait for you guys to see this film. I would love to hear what you guys thought about it in the comments below, as well as my review. But until then, guys, I hope you guys are having a great night, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.